it. I can guarantee I'll be what you need. Just call me.
Welcome to Song 43, and it's a podcast which I think is made for you and for me. It's creators who are doing all the things, being moms,
Yeah.
working, and still finding time to create. So first off, introduce yourself because you've had 19 last names and they're all hard to pronounce. So let's tell our listeners who you are.
Okay. Well, my name is Sarah De Valliere. And I previously, not too long ago, went by Sarah Ada. That's what Yuri, our mutual friend who connected us, he knew me as Sarah Ada. And then my maiden name, for anyone who wants to go way back, is Sarah Gronendijk. So I have a storied past of interesting last names.
Yes. Wow.
But but I chose Sarah De Valliere. That's my mom's maiden name, and I it's actually not my legal name just yet. It's my artist name at the moment, but it will become my legal name. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's exciting.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's a very cool last name. I mean,
Thank you.
The challenge being getting people to say it right and spell it right. But like when they do,
I
it's
know.
like, oh yeah, that is a wicked cool last name. And
Yeah.
maiden names, I mean, mine was Clap, so like I could not get rid of it fast enough, pun intended. But it's still my artist name. So I wanted to talk to you about that when I
Mhm.
was first looking into your music and when Yuri sent me the links, and then now you've released this new single, which we'll talk about, and this new project under your new name, right? But I'm like, how do you change from that? How do you go from having a Spotify following and a website and like this isn't even like a marriage thing. It's just like you were like, this is my artist name, and so tell us about that a little bit.
Oh boy. Yeah, so similar to you, my maiden name is Gronendijk. So I also, when I first got married, very much was like, yes, I will absolutely take the name Ada. That is so much better than Gronendijk. But I kind of, I kind of wish I thought a little bit more about it. I do think it's like a nice sounding last name, but I don't know, like I'm kind of weird. I kind of like something to not only sound good, but kind of like look good on paper too. And I never
Yeah.
really liked how it looked. I never liked how it looked, and I never felt like it never felt like me. It always kind of felt just not like me. So anyway, I got divorced a few years ago, and that's a whole other story. But long story short, I
bet.
kind of it was very difficult to make that decision, actually. I mean, I very much wanted to just go ahead and make the decision, and like there was no part of me that wanted to stay as Sarah Ada. But I did a ton of research, and I knew that like basically when it came to streaming and stuff like that, like I'm just gonna have like a new profile, pretty much artist profile, moving things. Yeah. So I did a little bit of testing. I did re-release a single under my new name to see what would happen. And long story short, like it got released under the new name, but it's still like in Spotify, like it's like both. And so if you had already added it, then that's what you have now is still the old one.
Really?
So so it kind of like split. Yeah, it did. And then that's just Spotify. That's actually like the best version of it. Apple just won't do it. And I think like pretty much most other streaming services just won't do it. But I knew that was a very strong potential. Everyone had warned me about that. But like, I think I talked to a friend of mine who had went through something similar, and she was like, well, honestly, like, I don't feel like our audience, actually, she was talking about herself, but I'm going to say we, because it's me too. Our audiences are not big enough to like care that much, like it's not.
I get that.
Yeah. Well, just to say, if you're going to do it, just do it now,
Right.
It's harder, I think, when you have a bigger audience and you have to worry more about splitting the streams or whatever and what impact that might have downstream. Pun not intended, but that sounded funny.
That was good.
So I think that's kind of, that's kind of the approach I took. And to be honest, like the funny thing is too, there were some things that I had released under my old name that I'm like not, it's not that I'm not proud of it. It's just like I could definitely bury that, CD. I don't
Put that
necessarily,
one away.
I,
That wouldn't be the worst thing. I
yeah,
get it.
I mean,
I have that.
yeah,
I have that.
it's not that I'm not proud of it, but it's definitely like, okay, this was me. I'm not constantly it's not like anymore, but I was definitely like in the beginning stages of learning how to record and produce and arrange and all these different things, and songwriting. Like I think that my material is so much stronger now that I'm very much okay to like not have some of that stuff be in my I guess like discography. um
I totally get that. That's very relatable.
But I will say, the album that I put out right before all the stuff went down with my divorce and all that, I am very proud of that album, and that was kind of heartbreaking to me because I think Yuri helped me. I keep mentioning Yuri. I don't know if we need to say who Yuri is.
I'll give some
So
context. They'll know.
okay, okay. Yeah, so Yuri helped me out with that album, and I am very proud of that. Like in pretty much every regard, I think it's a really strong piece of work. And but I have all these physical CDs that have my old name on it. But you know what I've done is I've repackaged the physical CDs and people still buy them. I like
Oh,
literally just
that's
put it
cool.
into a little, yeah, and I made like I wrote a little story and I printed it on a page and I was like, this might be confusing. Like, what is my name? Well, let me explain to you. So I've just
Love that.
tried to have that be it's just a part of my story. And if people really like my music, if anything, they're like, oh, this is really cool and interesting. I get this album that has a different name and it's sort of like a piece of her past. So that's kind of how I've wrapped my head around all of it. But yeah. And now I'm just forging forward, just this
I
is what it
love it.
is. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's something. So I one of my last guests is my drummer, Pete Wilhoit, and being
Hmm.
a dude, he didn't have to change his name when he got
Yeah.
married. Or,
Yeah.
whatever. So I'm just kinda like, this is so entertaining and interesting to me because we as women, if we do get
Hmm.
married or divorced or whatever, we have to have this conversation with ourselves and with our spouses and be like,
Yeah.
"What am I gonna do?" And I've already established myself as said artist and, do I wanna
Yeah.
change it? So, I think that's such a cool way of doing it though, having new packaging and having this kind of story that you
Yeah.
can tell.
Yeah.
That's really cool and fun
Yeah.
and tells a story that you can keep going with fans and get more people engaged. But God, it'd be so scary to me in this digital age to just change my professional name, especially with the realm of the streaming services, because
Yeah.
shoot, I wanted to change the album art for something and you can't do that. Like that is
No.
just not, I'm like, this is, well, shit, like I really, somebody was like, that picture's horrible. I was like, well, someone could have told me that before I made it the cover art. But anyway, things like
Oh,
that.
no. Well, I'll just say one other thing just in case there isn't anyone listening who's, like, racking their brain about whether to do something like this or not. Another perk, because there are actually quite a few perks, is, again, if you are, like, a lesser known person such as myself, um, is that, the stuff that I've released in the past that, like, for whatever reason, usually, like, the recording quality is maybe not what I would, consider up to snuff at this point. Um, I can just re-record it, and it's like, as far as most people know, it's just a new song, and I kind of think that's pretty great. And I mean, there are artists who like, there's quite a few artists like Paul Simon, famously, and Ani DeFranco. They'll like do the same song on a whole bunch of
Yeah.
albums in different ways.
Yep.
So I've always sort of toyed with that idea anyway. But now it's like, oh, I like this last album that I had put out under my last name. Hey, I can like re-record some of this, like the strongest material on it. I can just re-record it and put it on a new album or record it as a single, and make the recording like even better or just different. And as far as anybody knows, or as far as a lot of people know, there are of course like quite a few people who do listen to me. It's not like there's nobody, but for a lot of people, it'll just be a new song. So
Right.
so that's
That's
kind of nice.
exactly.
Yeah.
I just did that.
Yeah.
I last month I put out a single that I released in 2008. I just put out another version of it, and it sounds
Yeah.
exactly the same as the original. It's just that I'm using my actual Steinway piano as opposed to a digital piano, which
Oh,
had always
nice.
bothered me, like the, artificial sound of it. And now
Yeah.
my producer's like, well, now I want to add strings and I want to add harmony. So now we're going to do another
Yeah.
version of it. I'm like, shit, I don't care. Like, there's people who've never heard this song. So it's going to be the first time they're hearing it for somebody.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's very liberating and freeing, I think, now that we can just put singles out. Like, you don't have to do
Yeah.
a full pressing. You can just put a single out every week, every month. Although then that's a whole other can of worms where you're like, I'm not
I
creating enough. I mean,
Yeah.
that's another mind trip. But tell
Oh
me
my god.
about,
Yeah.
like, how you balance, because your song "Shadow" is just so awesome, and when Yuri told me who it was about, and I was like, "This is such a cool song," now that it was already a great song, and it sticks in my head all the time, but, like, tell us
Yeah.
about "Shadow" and about it who it's about, and just where it
Yeah.
came from.
Yeah, so Shadow is about he's about to be 12 years old, which is crazy.
I have
But
one of those
I
too.
oh god, it's
Yeah.
it's not
She's gonna be
it's not
13
easy.
though, so,
Uh,
oof.
okay, well,
Yeah.
he's like about to be 12. Yeah, preteen years are ugh. Anyway, he was, I wanna say, maybe like 6 or so, or 5 or 6, when I wrote the song, and yeah, like, a lot of my songs, they usually come from, like, one line that I'll hear or I'll think of, and I'm like, "Ah, that's a hook." And so most of my songs kind of stem from that, and he was, following his dad. He's now my ex-husband, but his dad was he was just, like, following him around all the time, um, and and then his dad said, "Ah, I can't shake my shadow." And I was like, "Oh my god, that's the line to us. That's like a hook right there." So, that was it. I mean, at the time, I was listening to a lot of Dr. John, um,
Oh, wow,
and some
cool.
other, and, like, Professor Longhair, and, like, other, kinda quintessential, like, New Orleans jazz pianists.
Yes.
And, like, learning how to play in that style, because I hadn't really, I mean, I had done rag in the past, but which is a little similar, actually
Yeah.
quite similar, but, so, it was really just like, "Oh, let me, like, write a song in this style," and I did, and it was very different from everything else I was writing at the time, and it was really the first song I wrote that was, like, blatantly about my kids, and I performed it at a show thinking, "Yeah, no one's gonna like this," because it was so different from everything else, and in my mind, it was like, I kinda just wrote it, like, it was just sorta like a little scene in my life. I think that's kinda what it was, but people just, like, really dug it. They liked it better than everything else, so I was like, "Okay,
Oh,
maybe
that's another thing
maybe
too.
I
You're
have
like,
something to."
"Really?" Like,
Oh
This
my
is the
god,
one you
every time.
like?" Oh,
Oh, every
every
time.
time.
Yeah, now I've learned to accept that, like, the stuff that I care the least about, or that is, like, it just comes out the easiest, and is sorta like there's just the least, amount, there's just, I don't know, there's just no friction in writing it or recording it or anything. It's just, "Yeah, here it is."
Yep,
That
yep,
tends to be the thing that people like the most. So that was
100%.
that song, and then it actually led to the rest of the album, to me being like, "You know what?
Oh.
I'll write an album about this whole experience of being a parent." Because I don't know, maybe there are people who actually wanna hear something like this.
They do, but they
So,
wouldn't have
yeah.
to know that it's about being a parent. Like, I mean, some of the songs,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
obvious, but, like,
Yeah.
that one isn't. Like, it's like, it could
Yeah.
be a vice, it could be a lover, it could
That's
be,
true.
like,
That's
anybody where you're just like, "Just give me some space," you know? And so
Yeah.
that's, I thought it was so great, and that's what I thought it was, and then Yuri's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, it's about her son." I was like, "What? That's so cool. I want to know more." So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so funny that it came from that, because 'cause I've talked about that a ton on the podcast where it's like, most of the time, I think as writers, we write from personal experience, but sometimes you witness something else and then
Oh,
you
yeah.
steal that and you run with it. And I think that that's been some of my best songs is when I kind of, escape reality, escape my head for a minute and just steal from somebody else's life or borrow.
Oh, yeah.
Borrow.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll say borrow.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so what's your process like? I mean, I hate when people ask me that because I'm like, it's different every time. But like, do you have a formulaic thing you do? Do you tell us about how you approach writing?
Um, well, I will say it is a little different every time, but maybe the bigger thing is that it has changed over the years. At least in how precious I am about that first draft. So that's kinda I would say
Yes.
that has really changed. Yeah. So in general, I'll say, like, the way that I write now, for the most part, is, I try to write as much as I can, like, have a complete song, like,
Mhm.
just quickly as quickly as I can, like, typically within a few days, if at all possible, and if it's not really coming out, if I can't really get something down on the page, then I'll just, like, kind of abandon it and come back to it later, um, and then whatever I'm left with is definitely a first draft.
Yeah.
So and then it's a lot of, like, rewriting, and I will say, like, usually either the music, like, the actual, like, chord progression and melody is what's kinda leading it and is the center of it, and in that case, my lyrics are usually absolute garbage, um, or the other way around. Well, they're garbage, but don't worry, like,
Yeah,
they
they'll
become
get
beautiful.
there.
They become beautiful.
Exactly.
Yeah, or it's the other way around where, I'm really focused on the lyrics and, like, not that the progression's garbage, but it's very uninteresting, at least for my ears. Although, usually people like the uninteresting stuff anyway.
Of course,
Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry, people.
Sorry,
Yeah, so
you're really brilliant. We love you all, but yeah.
everybody's brilliant, yeah. No, so yeah, like, a lot of times, if I am really focused on just honing in on the lyrics, then I don't focus too much on, like, what, interesting chord progression I'm gonna have or, if I'm gonna have, like, an inversion here or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So, that's kind of yeah, and then it'll be like, I mean, it could take years, honestly. It really depends on how often I'm, like, performing it, if at all, and if I'm having a chance to, like, show it to people and get feedback, and how desperately I need a song, because sometimes it's,
Yes.
like, a desperate situation. "Oh, I need one more song to fill out this thing that I'm doing." I mean, it just really depends on the project and the timeline, but, so if there is no real timeline or I don't necessarily know what I'm gonna do with it, it could be technically years until I've totally finalized it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then totally finalizing it is a whole other can of worms because it's like, what does that even mean? Like, we're just talking about how you
Yeah,
can re-record stuff, and it's like, "Oh, is a
yeah,
song ever really done?" I'm like, "Yes, I don't know." But,
yeah,
yeah, I totally relate to that. Sometimes songs just fall out, and sometimes they take a much longer time to,
yeah.
reveal themselves. So, yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, well, I guess finalized for me, what I meant was, okay, now I'm gonna record it, so
Yeah.
whatever and so but I do agree, like, I think it's a living thing. I mean, even once I've recorded something, I am not the kind of person who's like, "This is it. Alright,
Yeah.
band, this is how we're doing it." Like, I really couldn't care less, like, when it comes to, like, performing in a live setting, I'm very much like, I prefer a more abstract, amorphous kind of like, "All right, we're just gonna, like, see what happens here, and if we go off the beaten path, awesome, like, we'll just see where it takes us," and sometimes that's a different melody or a different chord progression accidentally or whatever, but yeah, when it comes to the recording, it's definitely like, "All right, this is it," and sometimes it's in that moment while I'm recording, "Ugh, this word or this note, I can't, like, this just doesn't work," and so you have to, like yeah, so it really can come down to the
Compromise,
last
change.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but I get
yeah,
that. When
yeah.
when you're recording it, it is in whatever form, it's gonna be in that final version of a form. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah, it's interesting too. I mean, people when you start writing, and I don't know about for you, when I started writing millions of years ago, I would write a song and be like, "It's done." And then record it, whatever,
Mhm.
and not think that I could revisit it. And that's something
Yeah,
I've gleaned in my almost 45 years of life is that it's never finished. Like you can do whatever you want with it. So but
yeah.
it's also a pain. Like once you do finish something, opening it back up is like, oh, I don't know. I'm speaking for me. I can't speak for you, but it's an interesting
It's
thing.
It's like the opposite for me. But the reason is because I am such a perfectionist, like to a very unhealthy degree. I'm in therapy, believe me. And so actually, like, this is part of my like why I need to be like, all right, I'm just working on this for a couple days. And I don't mean a couple days straight. I mean like, an hour here, an hour there. Because the less I feel like this has to be done, the more free I feel. Like that has been a big challenge for me in the past is being able to like put the pen down or like just getting really caught up in my head about do these lyrics make sense? Are they like, is this chord progression interesting enough or whatever,
Yeah.
so when I kind of like let that go and just say, "Oh no, I can revisit this." And that's exactly what I'm going to do. It actually really just takes this like burden off of my shoulders of feeling like it must be perfect because it's like, okay, no, like I mean, we'll try to get it perfect, but we'll do that later. Let's just have it be done for now and then
Yeah.
we'll come back to it. Yeah.
That's definitely yeah,
So,
and that's liberating too, to just get through something and be like, "I created this." Yeah,
yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. Well, that's cool. You're becoming a trying to become a less perfectionist, I guess, or less perfect
Trying.
perfectionist. That's not an easy
Yeah.
task. That's like part of your
No.
DNA, but that's
Oh
cool.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's an ongoing battle, mental battle, but I think a lot of people in general, but a lot of artists kind of struggle with that, you know. And I try to remember like I don't know who told me this. It was probably my mom. Like she's really into art. Like Claude Monet, apparently, like his
Oh,
like
yeah.
water lilies, he'd like keep redoing it and redoing it and redoing it. People were just like, someone was like, "Stop! It's good enough. Just stop
Yeah.
it."
Leave it.
And so
Leave it
sometimes,
alone.
yeah, yeah, and so sometimes I have to kinda just tell myself that, like, you might be at the point where you're ruining it, like, just stop. It's
Oh,
good.
that's
It's
an
good enough.
yeah.
It's good enough.
That's a very interesting yeah, we've all been there. Where you
Yeah.
push it just that little bit too far and you're like, "Oh god." Yeah. Yeah, that's a really I think there's a lot of similarities that can be drawn between writers and artists and how we create. We just wanna make sure that our vision is being heard or seen or received in a way that's gonna feel representative of us, but everybody's gonna take it differently and everyone's gonna see it differently. So, yeah, it's ever
Yep.
evolving. That's really
Yep.
cool. So, speaking of ever evolving, so you have this new project, new old project, or songs that are coming out and a new name. So
Yeah.
tell us about that and how that came to be.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna be releasing an album called The Healing, and that is coming out, I wanna say early June 2024. Crossing my fingers. I'm actually still finalizing the mix right now, so that's why I'm like, I hope so.
That's well
Um
ahead of the curve. Oh, wow. June?
Oh god,
Okay.
I told you I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And
That's you're
perfectionists
doing
need a
great.
lot of time. We need a lot of time.
Yes. Yes.
Um, yeah, so this is gonna be my first, like, full album under my new name, and, yeah, it's weird, like, I mean, the songs span from, like, me having written them in, I wanna say, 2010 even, to, like, having written them less than a year ago, but I really struggled with what to do next. So long story short, I mean, as I already said, I got divorced. This happened during the COVID lockdown.
During the
Um
COVID. Yes. Yes.
yeah, I was one of those, there's a lot of us. There's a lot of us out
Mm.
there, who, the relationship kind of like fell apart,
Lot of
during that
together
time.
time. Lot of together time. Yeah.
I will say it was gonna happen no matter what. I think it just it sped things up.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, and it was very challenging on a lot of different levels, and I think the hardest thing for me really was, like, I don't know how I can keep doing music, or at least I don't know how I can keep doing my music. Like, I never really stopped doing music. I would still, perform or, like, play with other people, record for other people. I write for, like, video games and stuff like that. Like, I still did
Oh,
that
okay.
kinda work. But, like, doing my own songs and putting out my own songs, it was just, like it was too too painful and too difficult. I think that sense of like this like deep sense of rejection, I'm like, I don't
Oh,
want that to be in this like bigger way, of putting out my music and feeling like it's going to be rejected. Not to get, too deep there. But yeah, so I had tossed around a lot of different ideas about like, okay, how can I kind of, and I tried to get started a bunch of times, like a bunch of times I would try to get started. And, I did actually put out one single about, kind of about family and my mom. It's actually like, I'm actually really proud of it, but I didn't promote it like almost at all. Cause I'm like, I don't want anyone to say the thing. I don't want to like think in my head, people don't like it. Like I
oh,
couldn't deal with it. So I put it out, but I did not. I had a little
promote
bit of
it
radio.
oh,
I
yeah.
got a little bit of radio promotion. I had like a PR radio person who did a little bit with it. But as far as like to my own audience, I'm like I barely said anything about it.
Hmm.
So yeah. And then I kind of kept toying around with like, I want to record, I want to do something. So I did get together with some friends and like we recorded a few songs and I was like, okay, well, I'll do something with these songs eventually. And like a year goes by and I'm like, all right, I think I should probably do that again. So I like recorded a few more songs.
Oh,
And I never really thought they'd all go together. Actually, in my head, I was like, oh, these songs are all so different. I'm just going to like try it out. I'm just going to record. I might never release any of it. But then I kind of realized there was actually like a theme to everything, which was dealing with like loss and grief and like having to heal. And I realized that regardless of what the song was actually about, like that's how I could really like relate to it personally. Was it felt cathartic for me to sing. I was choosing songs that were cathartic to me, that made me feel like, I guess kind of like everything's going to be okay. Like things kind of
oh,
suck right now, but everything's going to be
self-soothing.
okay.
Okay,
Yes,
all
it was
right.
very self-soothing. Yeah, it was very like that was the through line for all these songs, was that they were very self-soothing. So, yeah, so I kind of was like, I finally had a plan. All right, I've got like 10 songs here. Eventually I had 10 songs and I'm like, these do go together actually. And I took a lot of time figuring out the order and all of that. And yeah, so it's been years in the in the making, which is very
Wow.
long for me. But you know, um I'm I feel like I'm finally ready. I think that from the very beginning I was trying to push myself to like get it done and do something. And it's really not until honestly now that I'm like, okay, like I feel like I'm more, I guess, healed or more like
Yeah.
capable of putting myself out there. Because every time, I'm sure you've experienced this or you experience it all the time, I don't know, but that feeling of like vulnerability, like really deep down inside, where you're like, honestly, I might get crushed. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I
that's being
I think
really
every time
vulnerable.
yeah, every time
Yeah,
we go on stage, every time we put a song out, every time we
yeah,
shoot, tweet anything, it's like or tweet, I don't tweet anyway, but you know what I mean. Like you post stuff and it's just
yeah.
like I'm putting it out there and I don't know how old you are. I didn't, delve that
I'm
deep into your
I'm 36. I'm
Okay, so you're
36.
okay, all right. So I for myself personally, I can say that once I hit 40, all of sorry to curse, but it's my podcast, so all the fucks went out the window. Like, I just
Okay.
started saying, "You know what? I'm here for my family, I'm here for me, and, whatever I put out there in the grand scheme of things, I want it to make a difference, but I'm not gonna be so precious about it because
Yeah,
I found that that was holding me back from putting stuff out there." So yeah, now I'm just kinda like,
yeah.
if they like it, they like it, if not and then I started the podcast, because I was like, "What am I waiting for?" There's just all these things that, um, yeah, that have kind of just come to be naturally as I've just gotten a little bit more comfortable in going with it and, not worrying so much, but it took a minute. It took a long minute.
I appreciate that because I feel like, I'm still working on that, like, I literally, like, I think I told my fiance, so I'm engaged now. I told my
Oh, that's
fiance,
a plot twist. Yay, okay.
yes, yes,
Congrats.
I'm not taking his last name. So there
Okay,
you go. We're
we're not
sticking with
changing the
De
artist
Valliere.
name again. She's sticking with De Valliere. Okay,
In case anyone was curious.
I was, so
Yeah.
good, okay.
Yeah, so I told him, like, not too long ago, I was like, I really hope that by the time I'm 40, I don't give a shit anymore about what
Yes.
anybody thinks about me. Because it's like I have that recognition there that, like, I don't want to give a shit, but I still
Mhm.
do. Like, I know I still do. I don't think I do quite as much as, like I mean, it's, like, gradually dissipating, but it's still there. I still care, but I think that I'm at least at the point where I mean, I recognize it, but I can sort of block it out and be like, "Okay, but, like, what other people think is not as important as, like, what I feel deeply like I need to do. Like, I need to do this."
Right.
So yeah, yeah, but it's hard. And I can't wait till I'm
Oh,
40 if that's
yeah.
the timeline I'm trying to hit, you
I
know?
don't know, I mean, I hit 40 during the pandemic, so,
Yeah,
it was or well, I guess I turned 41, in 2020. And yeah, it just kind of and to make you feel better, I've been working on an album since the pandemic, in like songs that came out of it or songs that
yeah,
happened during it. And my producer is even more of a perfectionist than anybody I've ever met. I don't know. So he's keeping things till they're absolutely ready in his mind. So it's taking 4 years. But again,
yeah,
I'm like, I'll put out singles here and there and I'll do the podcast and I'll find other ways to just feed the creative monster. Otherwise, we take it out on our I don't know about for you, but take it out on our our poor people, when we don't get to exercise that muscle.
yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. By the way, I've listened to your stuff and I love it. I think it's really
Oh,
good.
thank
So
you.
I'm glad to hear you're putting out an album. I didn't know that. I thought it was just going to be a series of singles, but I'm an
It
album
it
person.
could be.
I
I
like
mean,
yeah.
it could be. I'm the same way.
I
I
could
like a
just see it.
body of work. I like to put it out
Yes.
there and say this was this time
Yeah.
period in life, and I'm just kind of like,
Right.
it may never happen. So, yeah. So
Well, what
thank
you're
you.
putting out sounds great, and I really enjoy like your podcast because I listened a little bit before joining.
Thank you.
But yeah, I get what you're saying 'cause, that's something that I've realized is, a lot of times, like, I feel this sort of I don't even know really what to describe. It's kinda like being, it's kinda like you have, like, a soda pop bottle. I'm not even from the Midwest. I don't know why I'm calling it soda
Wow,
pop.
I love
Like a
it.
soda
Okay.
bottle. And you, like, shake it,
Yep.
and it's like you've got to, like you have to let it out. You just have to.
Yes.
Otherwise, you just feel this, like, pent up energy, and, I think a lot of times, like, I kind of forget that because I'm always doing creative things, like, pretty much all the time, one way or another, whether it's through music or other means, but the actual, like, sharing and releasing and putting it out there, I think that's very challenging, like, on a number of different levels, like, mentally, but even just the actual, like, logistics of,
Logistics of it. Oh,
"Damn
it's
it, I just
exhausting.
want" it's so exhausting.
Is it?
All
It's
the
like,
different
oh, the
oh my
pre-sale
god.
and the
Oh
pre-save
god.
and then the getting it on
Yeah.
all the platforms and making all the thumbnails and all of this.
Oh
Oh,
my god.
thank
Oh,
God
and
for
should I make
Canva
a
though.
lyric video? Oh, yeah. Yes,
Yes,
Canada
we
does not
should.
work.
We should
Yeah.
always make a lyric video or a video in general.
Should we? No, but Laura, I've
I
been
don't
telling
know.
myself I don't need to, and I can take one thing off my list.
Oh, okay.
So,
Never mind. You
it
can absolutely.
well,
You
because,
can. Yes.
'cause I don't think we've really touched on this yet, but, like, I know you talk a lot about this, but, like, being a mom,
Hmm.
it's there's only so many things you can do. Like, at
For
least when your
reals.
kids are I don't know how old all your children are, but, like, mine are, they're about to be 8 and 12. So they're
Yeah.
still young enough where, like, they need me to be like, I have to still, like, make sure that my
They're
son is
feeding
taking a
themselves
shower.
and yes. Yes, mine are 9 and 13, or almost
That's
13, I
very
should say.
similar.
So,
Yeah, very
yeah, so
similar.
same and, like, they're at the point now where we can leave them home alone for a bit, and it's like, no one's gonna burn
Yeah,
the house down or kill each other, but it's they need us. So I totally
yeah,
get that, and
there's a
my thing
lot.
with the video is, like, did people really need to see this? Is what I'm like this, like, should I hire someone to do like, what does this song really wanna say? Because I tried for my
Oh, yeah.
single "Pretend" that I released in the spring, and my producer was like, "This is so awful. Do not show this to anyone." I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." I guess I was
Oh,
trying
now
to
I
be a
really
little
want to
bit.
see it.
Yeah, I think I was trying to be a little too artsy because it was like what I pictured the song when I
Yeah.
wrote it in my head, and yeah, that vision didn't carry. But that's why we have people who are directors that we should hire, and
Yeah.
I am not that. But lyric
Well,
videos,
now I
that's
have a
a
great idea. I have a great idea for you. If you still
okay.
have this, you should, for everybody listening, you should put it behind some kind of a wall where people
Oh,
have to sign up for your mailing list or whatever,
to
and
have
it's the only
access
way
to
to
it.
see this terrible video. People love
Yes,
seeing terrible things, you
they
know?
do. They do.
Yeah.
That's a great
I
idea.
think
I
I should
totally.
do that. I should make some really crappy videos and be like, the only way you can see this terrible video.
So if you subscribe to my Patreon channel, yes. Oh, I
Something.
love it.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
great idea. Well, I
Yeah.
did say I was going to start a Twitch channel of me playing video games horribly because I suck at video games. And so
Oh,
Sure
yeah.
is like we are involved in the gaming market. We make microphones that gamers use. And yeah, I went to this event called TwitchCon. And I was like, there are people who literally make a living playing video games. I can't even figure out how to get into the video game. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I could, who knows? I could be an untapped channel of me
Oh, I
failing
think so. I
epically.
think it'd be hilarious. I
It
think
would
it'd
be
be
something.
hilarious.
It would be something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, my
Oh,
child,
man.
my son's really into Minecraft, and
Yep.
he started with my help, he started a little YouTube channel, where
Oh,
he shows people how to do, I don't know, Minecraft stuff. That's about as much as I can explain about it.
Minecraft
But I
stuff.
was like,
Yes.
yeah, I was like, you know what? You should have a video where you're trying to explain to me, your mom, how to do these things because it'd be hilarious. And he's like,
That
I
is
don't know.
brilliant. Oh,
Honestly,
totally.
someone's gonna take that idea and run with it. I think it's a
Or we
pretty good
should
idea.
have two moms trying to explain Minecraft
Yes.
to each other, like the blind leading the blind. Oh,
Exactly. Yeah.
okay, whoever's stealing this idea, we've copywritten it. It's official. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. All right, so the album will be coming at some point in the early summer, we shall say.
Yeah.
And this is very exciting. So, how do people find you?
I should also add before I forget that the first single is gonna be released
Oh,
March
okay.
4th. I think we're missed to not say that. Yeah, so I'm gonna release a few singles. The first one's March 4th. It's the title track. But yeah, so at my website is probably the best way for all the things. The easiest way is you type in sdvmusic.com and then
See,
it'll
that's
take
great. I
you.
was like, oh crap, girl, if you put your whole
I
name as your
know.
website, we are screwed. Okay, all
Yeah.
right, now
Well, Well, it
sdvmusic.com.
is. Yeah, so it is my whole name, but what happens is it just redirects. So yeah,
Yes,
sdvmusic.com. It'll take you then to sarahdevalliere.com, so you don't need to remember or
brilliant.
know how to spell that name. Yeah.
Because it's got an l'accent aigu or whatever. I don't even some accent French thing, and I was like, I'm never going to be able to say this. So
Yeah.
that's brilliant. And that's a smart tip for anybody who is making content or being a creator. If you have a name that's tricky or if you have a brand that's a little tricky, just shorten it for the people, or do a redirect.
Yes.
So own both of the domains and then, yeah, redirect. That's a fun tip. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. All right. Well, this has been so cool to have you on the show because when Yuri pointed me in your direction, I was like, yes, she is my people. We need to have this convo. So I appreciate you taking time out of your crazy day so that we could
Yeah.
sit down and do this. And it took us a minute to get here, but I'm glad that we did. And we'll look out for the new single, which that's going to be here in 3 weeks. This is very exciting.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. Yeah, it is very exciting.
If you're
It's,
watching the video, you'll see her face kind of go a little white when she's like, "Oh my god, it's less than 3
well,
weeks." Yeah.
it's a little scary, but it is very exciting. It's kind of just in conclusion of what I've said before, it's different. It's if anyone's heard my other stuff, it's totally a departure from what I've put out in the past. It's very different from Shadow. Very, very different.
It's
So
great. That's
it's scary,
exciting.
but it's exciting. Yeah. Just jumping into the deep end here. So
That's the only way to fly. Well, thank you, Sarah, for joining me, and thank you everyone for listening. And check out her music, sdvmusic.com, and look for the new single. Thanks, everybody.
Call me, honey. If you please, just call me, baby. I'll be your fantasy. I worth it. I can guarantee I'll be what you need. Just call